All right, folks, to kind of get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Cruz. I'm from the customer success team. We are excited to kick off our first quarterly chorus hours. This session is all about how we can help you get your deals past the finish line. We'll host these webinars every quarter to introduce our latest releases, discussing exciting topics, helping everyone learn, and get connected to other power users in the community. So thank you so much for joining. Some housekeeping items, please post any questions as they come, submit them over Zoom so they can get the chance of being answered at the end of this webinar. Also, we'll be having a bonus Ask Me Anything after hours, which I'll get to in just a second. So today, from the chorus team, we have me, Anthony from the CS team, who will be sharing exciting customer stories as we go along. But also today, I'm joined by Brittany, Dow, and Koki, who are the rock stars from our product team that will be going in depth on a number of exciting releases. So to get things started, we have a lot to cover. We're going to be discussing how we can help you get accurate deal reviews and visibility, how you can enhance sharing and collaboration, and your one-stop shop for all SDR activity due to those releases. Like what I mentioned earlier, please stay tuned until the end of the webinar for our Ask Me Anything after hours. This is hosted in our course community. You can find the login information from our Zoom chat, but we'll also be sending an email to everyone after this is done. So if you're not a member, go sign up. With that, I'm going to hand over to Koki.
All right, thanks, Anthony. So let's get started with a quick poll. So you should be able to see the poll on your screen now. So if you're a rep, then what kind of tools, mediums, forums do you use to communicate deal-related information to your team or to your manager? And if you're a manager, then what tools, forums, etc., do you use to get that information from your team? So let's take a few seconds to and wait for the results to come in. All right, so seems like we have quite a bit of variety here. Salesforce, is at the top, not very surprising at all. But a lot of people also answered one-on-ones. I'm very happy to see that some of you are answering chorus. And hopefully at the end of this webinar, even more of you will be answering chorus, right? So at a high level, so it seems like, there's a lot of ways in which deal-related information is communicated across teams. And at the end of the day, what these results are telling us is that there isn't really such a thing as a source of truth when it comes to a deal, at least today. And deal reviews in that sense are quite challenging to do well, both for the rep as well as the manager. For one, as you can see in the poll results, the information that you need to actually conduct deal reviews is oftentimes scattered across many different places. Salesforce, your inbox, some information might only be present in your brain and nowhere else. And it does take time to compile all that information, and that's time that's spent away from selling, which is never ideal. Also, all too often, deal reviews are not actually that helpful for the rep, as I think a lot of you know. And if you conduct rigorous deal reviews, it's going to take a ton of time. It will take a lot of time to compile the information. It takes time to prep for, and it's stressful, et cetera, et cetera. And if you do high-level briefings, then ultimately the action items that come out of the meeting is not going to be concrete, right? It's not going to be very specific, and it's not going to be very useful for the team. So there's clearly some room for improvement here. And also, even the best reps is not going to be completely unbiased, especially in terms of the deals that him or her has worked so hard to get through, right? And no one is going to remember every single detail about what happened during a deal. And if you're a manager, you might be asking a lot of questions, but ultimately at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. So if there's any critical information that falls through the cracks, this means that the deal might not close on time, your forecasting might not be that good, causes a lot of problems, not just for yourself, but for the team. So that is exactly why we built the Deal Hub. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. And I'm excited to share with you today what we built and how it helps you do your job better. And it helps you and your team work more effectively with better information and better decisioning. So without further ado, let's drill into how exactly the product works. Okay, so before we start, let's take a step back and think about what is actually important when you examine a deal. So whether you're a rep or a manager, ultimately you're looking at the same information. And There's some critical pieces of information that affect the course of a deal, which I like to call the what, when, and the who. In other words, what conversations did you have? When did you have them? And who was involved, right? And we've designed the Deal Hub so that you can actually get the answers to these exact questions in a very, very efficient way. So let's dig in. Our new Deal Hub, which you're seeing on the screen right now, is made up of 3 main sections. At the center, you see the conversation feed. On the left, you see the contextual filters. And on the right-hand side, you see the preview pane. So for the conversation feed, this is meant to be your source of truth about all the conversations you have ever had with respect to that prospect or the customer, including not only meetings, but also email exchanges as well. And we'll be adding additional channels of communication as we go on and evolve this product over time. And you can see at a glance all the information that matters to you. So here on the screen, you can see that there's a follow-up email after an evaluation meeting, and it happened on August 27th. It came from Brad. And that's really all the information that you need to understand whether that conversation is something that you want to double click into. Let's take another example. Let's say that the deal is supposed to be closing this month, but there's been suspiciously little activity recently. That's kind of a red flag. And the last conversation that took place was a pricing meeting a week ago, and it's been radio silent since then. Well, now you know exactly what you want to drill into, right? So this conversation feed, it gives you all the information that you need so that you know which conversations is relevant and interesting for that particular deal. Now, let's move on to the filters. So, at the same time, especially for complex deals that, involve sales cycles that are months and months long, there could potentially be hundreds of conversations, especially if you add up both meetings and email exchanges and phone calls and all the other communication channels that you're using. So you really need the ability to quickly hone in on the conversations that are interesting to you, the important ones that are actually going to affect the course of a deal. And that is exactly what the filters are for. So let's say, as a manager, that you're taking a look at your team's deal. You might be asking questions like, so what conversations happened during discovery? What are their biggest pain points? What kind of timeline are we looking at in terms of closing the deal? Well, that's really easy to do using this view. You can just select the opportunity stage. You can filter down the field to all the conversations that took place during that stage, like discovery or evaluation or procurement, whatever else you're interested in. Another example. So if you want to see, for example, how your rep's relationship with the champion evolved over time, we offer you the ability to easily select participants from both, or contacts from both your end, as in like your deal team, as well as on the prospect side as well. So let's say Kriya is a champion and Katrina is your rep. So you can just select both, and you'll see exactly the conversations that happened between the two of them. So you can quickly analyze its relationship in a good place. So you can see how easy it is to filter down the feed to whatever you're specifically looking for. And we will be adding more filter options over time, as well as search options as well, to make it easier and faster for you to get whatever information that you need with respect to that deal. And finally, what do you do when you identify the conversations that are relevant for you? Well, first of all, it's rarely going to be the case that it's just one conversation you want to take a look at. And there will typically be a few that is relevant, maybe even a few dozen for a complex deal with a long sales cycle. So whether you're a manager or a rep, you don't really have much time during a day. You don't want to have to browse through the conversations, spend hours and hours looking through conversations to find what you're looking for. Ideally, you should be able to get the information that you need as quickly as possible, but still have it in context. And that is really what the preview pane is for. So for example, if you click on the email on the feed, you can immediately see it, as you can see it in the screen here on the right-hand panel, not just that single email, but the entire thread, so that you can actually get the context around the entire correspondence. Same thing with your meetings. If you click on the meeting, you can view the recording immediately on the right-hand side, play it back right then and there. No need to navigate away, no need to open up a new tab. You can also see some key stats around the meeting, like key trackers, as well as what participants were involved. So really get all the high-level information that you need to make the right decisions as to whether this conversation is something that you want to listen to. And really being able to quickly browse across conversations makes it easy for you to understand how they're linked together. So, for example, let's say that in a call, there were some next steps that came up. Well, did the rep follow up on those items within the same day via email, for example? With the Deal Hub, those questions are very, very easy to answer. You get all the visibility and more. So let's summarize. How does a Deal Hub help you do your job better? Well, if you're a rep, first of all, it helps to be able to find all the historical conversations on an active deal or an account that you're working on, all in a single place. Now, you might get some of that in Salesforce, some of that in the inbox, but as we all know, Salesforce really wasn't built for that, and it wasn't really optimized around you being able to find conversations quickly. So, if you use a Deal Hub, you wouldn't need to spend the time going through Salesforce, going through your inbox, trying to find that single email that you need to prep for your next call or forward on to your manager. You can do that in minutes or even seconds. Well, if you're a manager, well, this is going to drastically reduce the need for your team to quote unquote report up the news to you. And keep in mind that that might be happening every week during your one-on-ones, but every hour that your rep spends compiling information for you is an hour that they aren't out there selling. So this is something that you should be concerned about. And also, if you have the access to the first-hand information, what exactly was, where the conversation that took place, what exactly was mentioned by the prospect or by the rep, then you can be much more confident that the deal is in a good place and it will close on time because there's no bias, there's no ambiguity, just the honest truth. And that's really what the Deal Hub provides. There's also benefits to other functions as well, like sales engineering, customer success. Let's say, for example, that there's an SC that gets newly involved in the deal, or maybe an account that closed, congratulations to you, that got handed over to another AE, right? Or there's a pre-sales to post-sales handoff that is scheduled. Well, where do you go to get that information? Well, the Deal Hub really makes all this information transfer very easy to do with nothing that's being lost in translation. So that being said, Anthony, you used to be an account executive in your previous life, so you can certainly speak from personal experience. How do you think this product helps?
Thanks, Koki. That's a really good question. I know this feature is very brand new, but I can definitely share a little bit how this could have been an impact when I was a sales rep back in my day. I could say that there were times when I have reached out to C-level executives. I would discover that the reasons why they didn't purchase was information exchanged over email from previous reps. So as I started getting new accounts, I tried to make a new strategy of researching, find all the context of what is said, again, formulating an effective strategy on how to approach each of these accounts. I had to find other ways of finding this information, go through Gmail or Salesforce, but we all know that Gmail can be a little bit difficult because as a rep, you wouldn't just get access to historical email data from previous reps. But nowadays, most companies use sales engagement tools like Yesware or even Outreach, which pushes that email information to Salesforce automatically. But that just creates another problem. I would be searching through 30 to 40 tasks on each account, trying to find the right task with the right email information. And it was struggling because Salesforce could be slow at times. It felt like finding a needle in a haystack, spending hours trying to find that right information. So the point of the story is that if I was a sales rep back in my day and I had this feature, not only would this help me save time, but it would help me become way more efficient, credible when I'm engaging with these C-level executives, prospects, but also empower me to help deliver a better buying experience. Now, even in my role as a CS today, it helps me kind of do the handoff portion really well so I can understand all the context the AE is doing with these prospects, become a customer. Now I'm equipped with understanding the expectations even for a kickoff call. So at the end of the day, the main point here is that it takes time for either a rep or a manager to collect and communicate that necessary information to have a good sense of where a deal or renewal is at. So now we have deal visibility. What's next? In order to have an effective strategy for the go-to-market team or other departments, best way for each team to get involved is for them to have an effective experience. It can provide the right visibility for the right people within the organization. With this in mind, Brittany is going to be talking us through another recent release called Roles and Permissions.
All right, so we recently released enterprise-grade roles and permissions that let you tailor your instance of Chorus to best fit the needs of your revenue organization. Frontline managers may or may not be aware of these new changes because this is mostly set up through the admin settings panel. But it's important that everyone knows the power of personalizing your Chorus experience. Reps, managers, enablement, and leadership all use conversation intelligence differently. A personalized experience helps them each focus on key areas to get the most value from Chorus. And roles and permissions let Chorus scale with those fast growing sales orgs to best support the revenue teams as a whole. We've had standard role and team functionality for several years now, but this new release, we've taken things to the next level to grow and adapt our product to our users' needs. For example, we're seeing more and more teams using Chorus outside of account executive reps in sales calls. So there's a need for protecting certain information while maintaining the collaborative ecosystem of deals and cross-functional work. On the screen here, we have one example of roles and permissions in action. Roles help you set up users for success by tailoring how they experience conversation intelligence. Who should coach, who can access certain records, how custom tracker terms are managed, and more can all be assigned to users that incorporate these tasks as part of their day. Others don't need all these features and can have a much cleaner experience without the extra noise. That noise factor is one of our two key drivers for permissions: personalized experiences, focused workflows. The second driver comes from company internal IT needs. We've seen that as companies and revenue teams grow in size and geographic spread, they want their tech stack to also scale and easily support the growing complexity on the organization side. So soon you have state-of-the-art IT regulations and governance controls in place, and all for good reason. Businesses want to promote a culture of sharing, collaboration, and learning, but certainly not at the cost of their data security and privacy. So we knew our fast-growing and enterprise clients needed more flexibility to personalize the Chorus experience for their revenue teams. And our design and engineering teams really rose to the occasion and delivered a well thought out, nuanced version of permissions to support these types of orgs. There's a lot that can go into permission settings in Chorus, but today I wanted to share just a few pro tips to get you started. Remember to ask your Chorus admin to unlock these features for you. The first thing I want to stress is that the term permissions does not necessarily mean that functionality is going to go from open to limited. It's built with flexibility in mind to tailor things like coaching and deal collaboration to the right folks. So for example, your admin can set up Chorus to enable peer-to-peer coaching, so reps can fill out scorecards for their teammates, helping each other grow collectively. It's also now possible to unlock certain call review and coaching features for managers, enabling them to customize their own coaching scorecards and create trackers that help highlight the important moments specific to their team's calls. And finally, I want to mention that collaboration is really key. As a company, Chorus strongly believes in helping our customers work cross-functionally to deliver first-class experiences to their prospects in a deal. And we build every Chorus feature with this intention. So please be sure to ask your admin to consider how your reps, solution engineers, and success teams would need to work together if they do choose to define the data access and collaboration settings. Anthony, I'm sure you've seen some of this in action already in your accounts. Can you tell us how some managers and teams have been working with personalized permissions in Chorus?
Of course, thank you, Brittany. It's a really good question. So a really good story is that I was doing a manager training with a company that was like in the HR tech space, and they have an executive initiative around forming a coaching culture. So we did a training with their managers to kind of focus on coaching. As I started to go through these different use cases, like how to use scorecards and trackers, one of the SDR managers, Lauren, just raised her hand halfway through the training and asked, could I just create my own scorecard and tracker? And basically, it's her way of finding the right coachable moments and provide feedback easier. And this is week one when we just rolled out roles and permissions. So it just got released. Of course, we responded why not? Of course. We also had the Chorus admin there in the room that totally agreed of turning this on. So that following week after the training, managers started to use their privileges to create trackers and scorecards, but only for their teams. Lauren got to work, started developing personalized coaching plans for each of her reps, made trackers around filler words, and when reps try to explain what their company does, so words and phrases like what we do, who we are, how we help, then she created scorecards to help grade reps into good behavior. Her team ended last quarter with the most meetings booked, and reps loved the feedback. Now, starting this quarter, like Lauren is being approached by all the other managers in that company of asking more questions on how they can leverage those scorecards and also the trackers to be better coaches. So now Lauren's coming to me to try to learn the new Cold Call Central feature. And speaking about Cold Call Central, Dow is going to be walking us through this other recent release.
Great, thanks, Anthony. I want to spend just a minute setting the stage before we dive in. So when we chat with account executives and full cycle reps, wanting more pipeline is always top of mind. And at the heart of pipeline are SDR teams. And we all know that cold calling is tough business. If you are or ever have been an SDR, these questions might sound eerily familiar to you. What talk track should I be using? Is any script the best decision? Or should I just act human? Should I do research? And if so, how much? How do I leave voicemails? What's my best buyer persona pitch? How do I get around gatekeepers? Why are my connect rates so low? So on and so forth. Call dispositions came onto the scene to help leaders be the judge. But are your reps actually taking time to fill in dispositions? Our research suggests that 40% of calls are incorrectly dispositioned or not dispositioned at all. So does having half of the picture actually give you anything that you can base your strategy off of? And how much real visibility and insights do dispositions really give your team? Can I leverage them to help, or is it just an extra step for my SDRs to fill in? Managers are left with poor data and zero visibility, and the mystery of what talk tracks actually convert remains unsolved. We're excited to introduce Cold Call Central. This is Chorus's industry-first cold call view, providing SDR leaders, SDRs, and self-prospecting AEs insights into their team's cold calls that drive booked meetings and top of funnel pipeline. Our new views surface actionable insights that enable teams to surface and replicate top performing talk tracks, enrich one-on-ones by providing specific examples on what to coach, and building strategy around improving connect rates and closing the gap between SDRs and AEs. Chorus's AI processes and detects automatic call dispositions with greater than 98% accuracy. Smart call disposition automatically determines the following conditions on all of your outbound calls, whether it was connected, phone tree, gatekeeper, and voicemail. This creates a scalable and reliable source of truth for SDR managers to build their strategy around. And having this structured information across all of your cold calls means you're sitting on a goldmine of opportunity. As a manager, you can use these dispositions to easily access the types of calls you want to coach on. For example, if you're wanting to dive in and review your team's calls, you could filter to connected calls and listen to how your reps are speaking to their prospects and what their talk tracks are. If you wanted to see how your reps were able to successfully connect and navigate past gatekeepers, you could add the gatekeeper filter like here in the third row. Building off that last point, if you wanted to see calls where your reps weren't able to successfully get past gatekeepers, you would just filter to calls where gatekeeper was encountered, but the call didn't ultimately result in your rep connecting with the prospect. These are a few helpful examples, but ultimately it's in your hands to use the data that Chorus is creating for you on all of your calls to help you be a killer manager and coach. Anthony, I'd be curious to know how you've seen managers using Cold Call Central to uncover areas of improvement within their call funnels.
Thanks, Dal. It's a great question. Yeah, this is perfect. This reminds me of like a story of, this is a new VP of sales. His name is Mark. He's a 200-person tech company, and he recently was tasked on hiring a new division of SDRs and SDR managers. He basically wanted them to be the best SDRs as well as become masters in objection handling and execution. But Mark's problems were that his reps had low connect rates and his current sales tools couldn't show and explain why this was happening quickly. I mean, he just scaled an entire sales force and they were struggling to hit their numbers. He needed a source of truth where it can empower his SDR managers to accurately pinpoint which connected calls their SDR reps were struggling. Mark basically was contacting Chorus, wanted to figure out what's going on the roadmap. And he basically asked me a question like, hey, do you have anything that's coming down that can just help my SDR managers see the problems. And I suggested the Cold Call Central, which was very hopeful, but he was super excited. Once the feature was live, him and his team were able to see and view all of the connected calls, which Dow mentioned that's a gold mine. They started analyzing both connected calls where meetings were booked and the ones that were not. Then they were able to start figuring out what were the objections, identifying the roadblocks for each connected call, because every connected call is an opportunity to convert into a meeting, which is revenue. They did the reverse and analyzed the unconnected calls to see what improvements need to be made when we're having calls with gatekeepers or even doing voicemails. What Mark didn't know was that him and his team was also given the opportunity to reevaluate the call list providers that they were getting, because some of the teams were experiencing poor data quality. So weeks after the Cold Call Central feature rolled out, Mark noticed improvements across the top of the sales funnel. The number of SQLs, AKA meetings, went up. SDR reps started to ramp up faster because their managers were more equipped with the right tools to coach them on the right areas faster and accurately. Mark started to realize that full cycle reps who were also using dialers could also benefit from the same feature. Now today, Mark applies the Cold Call Central feature to all reps who are using dialers in various departments to produce more of those meetings. Now, Dow will walk us through what is coming up next for this feature.
That's right. Anthony, you alluded to a lot of places where we can continue to build and develop workflow tools that can help SDR teams optimize and create efficiency at every step of the call funnel. You see here 3 different things that will continue to improve over time. Prescriptive analytics will continue to help reps and managers understand what's happening on their calls and how they can continue to improve at every area of the call funnel. We'll continue to improve and develop more workflows and also continue to improve and develop better AI call recommendations and a full suite of tools for SDR teams. So stay tuned and keep your eyes peeled.
All right, folks, thank you so much for joining this quarter's webinar with Chorus. We're going to be here for a little bit to answer some questions, and we'll kind of wait to see what's going on. Actually, I have 2 questions that came in. So one question is closed won deals in Salesforce tracked through Chorus? How do I find key commonalities amongst different stages of the deals that close?
All right, so this is Koki. I'll take that question. Fantastic question, by the way. So in terms of the closed won status, you're exactly right. So basically, we have a bi-directional sync with Salesforce where we're able to, based on what the deal status or opportunity status is within Salesforce, we'll just sync it within Chorus, right? So it's always up to date. You'll be able to see which deals are closed won, closed lost, which stage is that. So all that sync is in place. And in terms of the second question, how do I find key commonalities amongst different stages of the deal that close? So the deal hub itself is really optimized for analyzing a single deal and what is going well, what is not going so well, et cetera, with respect to that deal. Where we provide those types of insights, like what are the commonalities or what can we generalize across my deals or across my opportunities, is basically what we provide in analytics. And that's something that we provide today, but we're also very soon, I won't get on a tangent here, but we are soon coming out with additional functionality on our new analytics page that will allow you to easily answer those questions, like things like, well, for deals that close, do you spend more time in discovery, less time in discovery, what talk tracks work best for advancing a deal from one stage to the next, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that is coming up very soon, so stay tuned.
Thank you, Koki. I think another question we got here is, can you create a custom view for specific data in the deal review dash? For example, like advertisers, KPI amounts, or KPI amount of touches, stuff like that.
Right, I'll take that as well. So another great question. Currently, we do not support customization of the view specifically within the Deal Hub. But personally, I think that the question is exactly on point because the Deal Hub really is meant to give you a very comprehensive view with enriched data around you being able to make better decisions around the deal. So we are continuously exploring additional data sources, touch points, et cetera, that we can bring into this view so that you can actually get a more holistic, more complete view around the deal. So that's something that is certainly on our roadmap and we'll be exploring it in the future.
All right, folks, I want to say thank you so much for joining. Kind of wrap up the webinar for today. Again, please join us for our Ask Me Anything after hours in our Chorus community so you can actually speak with other Power users and learn from the best. Find the information in the Zoom chat. Everyone should also be getting an email on how to sign up. Again, thank you so much for everyone joining. Stay tuned for our next quarterly webinar. Bye-bye.